Hi everyone, I am Dr. K. Sai Reddy. Welcome to the subject software testing. And today we are going to discuss about static testing technique called review. And today's topic are reviewing of the BRS document, typical defects that will be found in BRS document, and a template to report the defects, and the defect reporting. These are the topics that we are going to cover. And this session is very important for the freshers as well as for the experienced persons. So this is the real-time process, and we will take the defect reporting by taking an example, right? Yeah. Now, reviewing of the BRS document. That is Business Requirements Specification Document. Shortly it is called as BRS document. So who is author of the BRS document? Business analyst is the author of the BRS document. That means the business analyst will prepare, the business analyst will design, or the business analyst will write this BRS document for the project. Once the designing of the BRS document is completed, that BRS document will be shared to all the team members. As soon as that BRS document is shared for the review process, now all the team members will do the review on the BRS document. Now, see, what is the process, or what are the different steps in the reviewing of the BRS document or any other document or maybe a code? These are the different steps of the review process. Reading each and every line of the document, if it is a document, or if it is a code, reading each and every statement in the code, analyzing each and every line of the document, understanding each and every line of the document, and finding the defects, if any, in that document. After finding the defects, immediately they have to report the defects to the author of the document. This is the generic model of the review. If you take the BRS document, all the team members, while doing the review, that all the team members should read each and every requirement. After reading the requirement repeatedly, they have to analyze each and every requirement. After analyzing each and every requirement, they have to understand the requirement of the project. After understanding the requirement, obviously, they have to find the defects in the requirements, if any. If any defects are present in that particular requirement, they have to find the defects. After finding the defects, immediately they have to report those defects. To whom they have to report the defects? Those defects should be reported to the author of the document. In this case, business analyst is the author of the BRS document. So, after finding the defects in the BRS document, immediately they have to report those defects to the business analyst. These are the generic steps of the review process. Now, see here. What type of the defects that are possible to find in the BRS document? In general, the following are the typical defects that are possible to find in the BRS document during the review process. Those are gaps between the requirements, missing in the requirements, clarifications in the requirements, and corrections in the requirements. Gaps, missings, clarifications, corrections. These are all the 4 types of defects that are possible to find in the BRS document during the review process. So gaps between the requirements, what is the mean? That is, in between the requirements, if there is a gap, then they have to find those gaps. And missing in the requirements, that is, if the requirement is not a complete one, if there is something missing in the requirement, now the team members has to find that missing in the requirement and the clarifications in the requirements. So one requirement is designed by the business analyst. After reading that requirement thoroughly, repeatedly, then sometimes there will be some ambiguity in the requirements. There may be some ambiguity in the requirements. That means there may be some confusion in the requirement. So the reviewer needs some clarification. From whom they have to get the clarification? From the author of the document. So clarification is also one type of the defect. And the corrections in the requirements. Sometimes the requirement needs some corrections. Then immediately the concerned author of the document has to correct that requirements. So these are the 4 typical defects that are possible to find in the BRS document during the review process. Right? Gaps, missings, clarifications and corrections. Now, after finding the defects, what we are supposed to do? You have to report those defects. How to report the defects? There will be some mechanism. What type of mechanism? There will be some template. There will be some document. So by using this template or by using this document, all the team members has to report those defects to the author of the document. See, this template or the model of this document will vary, will change from one company to other company. Some companies may use different template. Some companies may use different rows, columns in the template. So this is a generic model. This is a generic template to report the defects. In the interview also, just simply if they ask you to explain the template, you can use this template in the interview. By using this template, you can explain this defect reporting in the interview. Right? Yeah. The first column is a defect ID. That means each and every defect will have some identification number. Some unique number will be assigned to the defect. This is a defect ID. Name of the reviewer, that is who is reviewing this document and who has found this defect. That name of the reviewer should be there. And the date of the review, on which date you have performed the review. That means on which date you have found the defect. Defect type. What type of the defect it is? It may be either gap, or it may be a missing, or it may be a clarification, or it may be a correction. You have to mention the type of the defect here. And the page number. See, in which page, under which section you have found this defect. That you have to mention this page number. If you mention this page number, then it will become very easy for the author to refer that defect in the particular requirement. So page number is mandatory. Next is defect description. After finding the defect, the concerned reviewer has to write the description about that particular defect. This is called a defect description. This defect description should be very clear and it should be a complete one, and there should not be any confusion, or there should not be any mistakes, or there should not be any ambiguity in the defect description. So defect description is very, very important to refer the author. Right? Defect description. That means after finding the defect, the concerned reviewer has to give the description about that particular defect very clearly, completely, without any ambiguity. Ambiguity means confusion. And the resolution. Here, this last column will be filled by the author of the document. See, defect ID, name of the reviewer, date of review, defect type, page number, defect description. Up to this, the concerned reviewer has to find this, has to fill this all the columns, whereas a resolution should be filled by the author of the document. When he will fill that resolution column, see, after reporting the defect to the concerned author of the document, that author will go through this defect description and he will refer that page number, he will refer the defect type also. And if really that author feels that reported defect is a genuine, really the defect is present, then he will accept that defect and he will do a modification in the requirements document accordingly. By unknowingly or without understanding that particular requirement properly, if the reviewer has found that has reported the defect, in fact there is no defect, but by some confusion or due to some lack of knowledge or due to some misunderstanding of the requirement, even though there is no defect in that particular requirement, if any reviewer has reported the defect, then immediately the concerned author of the document will reject that defect, because actually there is no defect due to some misunderstanding or due to some confusion that the concerned reviewer has reported the defect, but actually there is no defect. So in the resolution, what he will write, that reported defect is rejected. That will be the resolution by the author, right? This is the template to report the defects. Now I will take the examples, real-time examples, and we will explain this the defect reporting. Now here defect ID D001, that ID number should be unique. That means once that ID number is assigned to the particular defect, the same ID number should not be used in the project for any defect. That is unique. So here the defect ID is D001 and name of the reviewer Dr. S.P. Reddy and the date of the review 31/05/2021 and the type of the defect correction and the page number 45. That means in page number 45 I found those defect. And here the defect description. Here that ABC refers the name of the project. ABC refers the name of the project. So in this project, in the BRS document version 1.0, under the section 3.1.1, in the serial number 2, the description should be as to store the country data instead of to data store the country. That means in the BRS document version 1.0, under the section 3.1.1, in serial number 2, so they have mentioned to store the country data instead of to data store the country. I repeat, the author has mentioned to data store the country, but it should be to store the country data. So to store the country data is meaningful, to data store the country is not meaningful. So here the correction should be there. The author has to correct this requirement. That is why the defect type is a correction. Now, so defect is accepted and modified the BRS document accordingly. This resolution will be updated by the author of the document. The second one is the defect ID D002, name of the reviewer Dr. S.P. Reddy, date of the review 31/05/2021. Here the defect type correction and the page number 63 and the defect description. ABC is the name of the project. This is a BRS document with version 1.0. Under the section 4.2.5, title for the table should be custom post. So here this is a correction. So that's why the defect type is a correction and you have reported the defect. I have reported the defect. And the resolution made by this, updated by the author. So whatever the defect that I have reported, he accepted the defect and he has modified the document. After modifying the document, then he will update this resolution. The defect is accepted and modified BRS document accordingly. Right? And we will take one more example. Here defect ID D003, name of the reviewer, date of the review, defect type missing, because gaps, missings, corrections and clarifications. These are the 4 types of defects. Here the defect type is missing and the page number is 72. ABC is the name of the project. BRS document version 1.0. Under the section 5.3, this is the description. In the operational data, currency code, currency exchange rates are mentioned as separate entities. Are these 2 entities are separate? If these 2 are separate entities, details of currency exchange rates are missing. This is the defect description. See, this is one of the requirements in the project, in the real-time project. Just I have taken this example for your understanding only. Don't bother about this requirement. Just try to understand the defect description. So, in this defect, under the section 5.3, this is the defect description. In operational data, there is an operational data, currency code and currency exchange rates are mentioned as a separate entities. Are these 2 entities are really separate? If these 2 are the separate entities, details of currency exchange rates are missing in the requirement. That I have found during my review process. That defect I have found during the review process. What type of defect it is? Missing. In page number 72. This is the defect description. As soon as I report this defect, the concerned author of the document will go through this defect description, will read this defect description, and he will verify that the document in the page number 72 under the section 5.3. And if he feels, yes, this is a correct defect, this is a genuine defect, the defect is present in this particular requirement, immediately he will accept that requirement, he will accept that defect, and he will modify the BRS document accordingly. He will modify this requirement accordingly. This is the resolution of the concerned author of the document. So this is how each and every review team member has to report the defects. During the interview process or in the interview, if they ask you to explain how to report the defects of the BRS document or any other documents in the review process, then you have to tell them, yes, we are following this template. This is a defect ID, name of the reviewer, date of the review, defect type, page number, defect description, resolution. So, and by using this template, you explain about defect reporting. So here, once again I am telling, this template or this model of this defect reporting document is not a fixed one. It will change company to company. So, every company will design this defect reporting template as per their convenience. As per their convenience, they will prepare this template to report the defects. So this template will be used internally for the project. Different companies will use the different templates, different models. In interview, by taking this template as an example, and you can explain about reporting the defects, right, during the review process. Yeah. So, if you like my sessions, please subscribe my channel, share my sessions, and like my sessions. Please share my sessions to all the students community, those who are in job search for in IT industry. Thank you very much.